Hey everyone. All right, very exciting. So we're drawing Metatron's cube. We're going to learn about it, we're going to draw it, and we're going to have so much fun. This shape is so satisfying. It looks incredibly complex, but it's super user friendly. I'll walk you through it one step at a time. And as always, I will include the PDF of the sequenced steps. So don't worry about it. You don't have to remember anything. Just enjoy the ride. It's really important that you have an understanding of how significant this shape is so that you can bring a new level of consciousness to the process of drawing. Because remember, we talked about how we are not only entraining ourselves with the harmonics of the geometry, but you're essentially inviting your psyche to expand from this 2D linear interpretation of a third dimensional shape and then expanding your awareness into understanding that this is a multidimensional shape. This geometry is popping in and out of reality. It's bending space-time. It's carrying consciousness to the future and the past and back. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. So there is so much significance and intelligence and extraordinary information contained in Metatron's cube that it was top secret for a long time. The Platonic solids and the mysteries, the secrets that those shapes contain was punishable by death long ago, right, in the mystery schools. So this information is just coming out. It's just making its way into our larger human collective psyche because it's time. It's time for our consciousness to be activated, and the geometry is of service to that process. So, I'm serious. It is that powerful. All right, I go on and on. So, I'm going to get into the PowerPoint. Okay, so it looks incredibly complex, right? You're going to be fine. We'll walk you through step by step, but isn't it beautiful? There is just so much eloquence to this shape. I'm so in love with it. I'm in love with all the geometries. If you've taken any other classes by me, you know this. So I keep talking about the Platonic solids. Like, what is this? What's going on with this? Whew, this is a rich conversation. So basically, Metatron's cube contains 5 shapes. And these 5 shapes are unique in the universe because they are the only 5 that adhere to 3 criteria: that all faces of the geometry are the same, that all interior angles of the geometry are the same, and that if you were to put the geometry within a sphere, the points would touch the sphere equidistant. So it's this equal relationship to the fundamental geometry of the sphere. So 3 criteria that only 5 shapes meet, and those 5 shapes are the tetrahedron, which is a 3-dimensional triangle, the hexahedron, also known as the cube, the octahedron, which is the 8-sided geometry, the icosahedron, which is a 20-sided tetrahedral geometry, and then the dodecahedron, the 12-sided pentagonal geometry. So these are the rock stars, and I'm just going to say it, no offense to everybody else, but the dodecahedron is really the master. So we're going to look at that in the next class a little bit more. But as you can see, the 5 Platonic solids are attributed to the 5 elements. So what we're talking about is the tetrahedron being related to the element of fire, the octahedron related to the element of air, the cube as the element of earth, the icosahedron representing the element of water, and the dodecahedron representing the element of ether or space or energy. The dodecahedron is top secret, right? We haven't been told about the element of ether. It has been wiped clean from our consciousness. Literally, in physics, we wrote it off as dark matter, right? Like, nothing to see here, but 99.999% of reality, right? This fundamental, essential piece of information is what changes the whole game. When you start to incorporate the concept of energy into reality, everything changes. This is why this information is subversive. It changes your understanding of how to move in the world. It can literally change your entire paradigm from one of scarcity, thinking that there are not enough resources, that you have to fight each other for and promote fear and competition, to a reality of abundance and unity consciousness, and where there's enough for everybody, where life is about thriving and not just surviving. Oh, there's so much to say, but basically, ether, otherwise known as prana or chi or vital life force. So, understanding the influence of energy changes both our collective experience as well as our internal experience. So, what we've come to understand is that space is alive. We didn't think there was any kind of geometric structure or quantifiable elements to space. But it turns out that information was likely kept from us as well. And that if you were to compact all of the energy in our entire universe into something the size of a sugar cube, right? A cubic centimeter of space, you would have more energy in that concentrated cubic centimeter than you did in the entire universe, right? So basically meaning that there is more energy in a single cubic centimeter of space than there is in our entire universe. And so literally what that looks like is that the density of the entire universe is 10 to the 55th, whereas the density of a cubic centimeter of space is 10 to the 93rd. So the reason I'm going into that is because if you harness the energy of space, you can tap infinite sources of energy, right? And this is how the paradigm can change. This is how we would move from a fear-based competition, warmongering, resource depleting reality into a reality of thriving, of abundance, of enough for all, no more war, no fighting, no scarcity. And this is one of the reasons this information is so potent. When you start to draw Metatron's cube, when you start to work with the elements, all 5 elements within yourself, within reality, you're activating this consciousness. You're activating unity consciousness. You're activating abundance. You are shifting your reality. It's happening on very subtle levels, but trust me, it's happening. So you think that you're drawing a 2-dimensional shape, right? But that 2-dimensional shape is representative of a 3rd-dimensional reality. And that 3-dimensional shape is representative of a multi-dimensional reality. So we really want to take it off the paper. We want to bring it into the imagination that it exists here in this 3rd dimension. And then we want to imagine that it could exist on multiple dimensional realities and that we exist in multiple dimensional realities. The implications are mind-blowing. These geometries are alive. They are representations of us, right? You remember in the seed of life how it's the natural progression from the original cell division to our full biology. These geometries are alive. Next, Metatron's cube is profoundly transformational because when you start to incorporate energy into your reality, you begin to understand yourself as an energy being, as a frequency, and as a geometry, right? So this is the star tetrahedron. This is 2 of the tetrahedrons inverted on each other. And what that creates, you might have heard of a Merkaba, right? This geometry, 2 triangles, 2 tetrahedrons inverted, creates what's called our light body. It is the Merkaba. This is what our essence looks like. We are energy, we are light, we are geometry. And this light body, this tetrahedral structure, is actually how we would travel the universe if we had the skill sets which advanced civilizations have, if we had the understanding of how to activate our light body and become the pure energy being that we are, we could travel the universe. We could tap wormholes and travel to other dimensional realities. We could blip in and out of time and space. So perhaps you're getting the picture that this is some extraordinary information. This is esoteric wisdom. This is ancient knowledge that when you begin to draw the shape, you're tapping the consciousness that knows about these abilities. Trust me, it's a very big deal. So now here we have the 2D version right in front of us. And again, you're gonna draw this and you're gonna be blown away that you could draw it, and it's really fun. So here you can see 5 platonic solids, and then the 6th, the star tetrahedron, which you've just now come to understand is profound. And here's a great example of how all of the platonic solids fit into Metatron's cube. The dodecahedron is the only shape where you have to add lines in. The others are self-evident once you know the lines, but that's part of what made the dodecahedron so top secret, is that you had to know where the lines went. So we'll do that in the next module. So I'm going to include the PDF of the progression here in the module. This shows you the relationship of how we get from the seed of life through to the flower of life, and then how we get Metatron's cube from the flower of life. Now, I'm going to show you how to draw Metatron's cube in 2 different ways. In this module, we're going to draw it going through the seed of life as the origin. And then in the dodecahedron module, I'll show you a shortcut. But basically, the thing that's significant right here, right now, is that the flower of life has several different iterations. This image here is called the flower of life, as is this one, as is this one. But there is a huge difference in all 3 of them. This image is contained by the zona pellucida. The zona pellucida is the Latin word for our cell membrane, right? Again, the mirror of the biology. And the cell membrane containing the intelligence of the cell, right? All of the DNA, all of the mitochondria, everything that makes our biology functional is contained within that membrane. Now, the exact same thing is true for the geometry. So this is the zona pellucida, and it contains the flower of life. But what it does is it actually cuts off the outer ring of the circles. And you need all of those circles to find the 13 circles that create the base for Metatron's cube, right? So metaphorically, the information in the cell is it's cutting off this full expression of the flower of life. I mean, the implications for our biology are fairly significant. But the flower's got to be fully expressed in order to get to the 13 circles, and then to create Metatron's cube from there, to find all the 5 platonic solids and the star tetrahedron, and to begin to activate all elements within your reality to bring everything to life. So I will include this PDF so you can refer back to this, but there's a beautiful sequential relationship in the entire progression. And you can see here in this image that all of it is related, right? There's a progression from one geometry to the next. There's a fractalization that can go infinitely in and infinitely out with all of the sacred geometries. And it is a never-endingly fascinating study. And we're going to get right into the drawing. But perhaps pause for a moment. Take a nice deep breath. That's a lot of information. We're going to shift gears now into doing some drawing. And the invitation as we draw is to contemplate the significance of the shape, and that there is so much more to this reality than what we've been told. Okay, see you soon.